I'm Chris Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. May 5th is the National Day of Recognition for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls and Two-Spirit people. It's also called Red Dress Day. While there are events going on across the country today, many communities also held events over the weekend, including one in Winnipeg put on by the family of Rebecca Contois, one of the 4 women killed in 2022 by a serial killer. With more, here's TR Wheatley and a warning: some details are distressing.
Check it out.
An afternoon of dancing, kids' activities, and food. A celebration of life for all missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people.
We need to highlight all the love and the light that they brought into our lives, and sometimes that gets it takes a back seat because we're overshadowed by how they left the earth.
That's Isabel Daniels. She helped organize this event with the family of Rebecca Contois. Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Ashley Shingus were all brutally murdered by a serial killer in 2022. Daniels said with the trial going on, a lot of the focus was on the killer. Now that he's serving life in prison for first-degree murder ×4, events like this can put the focus back on the women.
She loved the color purple. She was very bubbly. She had a beautiful smile, and she was very kind and affectionate to her family and to the people that knew her.
Barb Gamon is an MMIWG advocate, often on the front lines helping search for women in this city. She's grateful for a change in pace that brings community together.
I think it's important. It uplifts the families, and it's a fun day for the kids. And the music was awesome, and the dancers. It's a good get-together for the families.
Community elder Geraldine Shingus also paying tribute to Rebecca's spirit. It was Rebecca who was found first, sparking an investigation that led to the discovery of all 4 women.
It was Rebecca Contois that started, everything. We got to thank her family, and we got to thank Rebecca for, beginning and initiating that search.
Shingus also provided support to the families twice. First to push to search the landfill, a nearly 2-year battle to get a physical search of the Prairie Green landfill for Morgan and Mercedes, and then in court as they went through the trial.
Seeing Rebecca Contois' family and Mercedes Myron's family and Morgan Harris's family, even Buffalo Woman, and we later found out she was Ashley Shingus, and just supporting that family too now, so we need to have that search for Ashley and for Tanya Nipanak.
In March, the Winnipeg police said another search of a separate landfill would happen for Ashley Shingus. That same landfill, where the remains of Tanya Nipanak, believed to be a victim of another serial killer, are also believed to be.
Yeah, it'll be 14 years in September. 14 years since she's been missing.
Tanya's partner Vernon Mann saying back then the police only physically searched for Tanya for 3 days, something that's been hard on him and their 2 children.
My daughter's 23 and my son is 28, and it's a day-by-day thing. It takes a lot to try and deal with these things, especially when it's coming back. It's like it's all fresh again, because especially with the other case being so similar to Tanya's case, it's a lot to take in. It's almost like it never goes away because it's a constant reminder on social media and in the public about everything that's going on.
With talks about possibly expanding the Shingus search to include Tanya, Mann remains hopeful that he can soon bring her home for a proper burial. Holding on to spaces like this event in the meantime where community helps him feel safe. TR Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
In recognition of Red Dress Day, the Manitoba government announced new funds that families impacted by missing and murdered loved ones can access for help. Distinct First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and urban Indigenous populations across Manitoba are represented by the organizations receiving the funds. Manitoba Kiwetanoni Okikamak Southern Chiefs Organization, Gaganaway Affinity Women's Secretariat, and Tunga Sugit. More than $350,000 is being provided to the 5 organizations who will give direct low-barrier support to eligible MMIWG2S Plus families. Immediate family members may be able to access financial support from them to help cover costs to search for loved ones, court proceedings, counseling, or other eligible supports. The The money is revenue from the $15 million MMIWG2S Plus Healing and Empowerment Fund, initially invested by the provincial government last May and managed by the Winnipeg Foundation. Families Minister Nahani Fontaine says the fund has now grown to $22 million.
At some point, Cora Morgan and I have the goal of having that endowment fund reach $50 million. Should it reach $50 million, what we're looking at potentially in returns of upwards of $2 million every year. As I've shared before, the way that the endowment fund is constructed is that 60% of any and all returns every year will flow directly for the use of MMIWG2S family members, with 40% coming back into government to be able to support Indigenous-led organizations and the activities that they do in respect of MMIWG2S.
In 2010, the first Red Dress Day took place to raise awareness of the crisis of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls in Canada, while paying respect to the victims at the same time. Now it has grown into a national day of recognition across the country. Recently, a group of people in Ottawa, including one from Saskatchewan, created a project similar in both message and color to continue the conversation of safety for Indigenous women. CTV's Mick Favel has more.
A red, velvet-like cape covered in traditional red cones, each cone representing someone murdered or missing.
We're getting all these names and we're getting stories, and people are sharing that this means so much to them because there's a place where they can give the name and bring awareness to them.
The project, known as the Silent Jingle, has been in the works for 2 years. What started as a small team now has nearly 15 people working to get the message out. Its color and message sharing similarities with the Red Dress movement, which brings national attention to the crisis of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls each year. Diane Big Eagle's daughter, Danita, has been missing for nearly 20 years. She says the Red Dress movement and other initiatives brings critical awareness to cases like her daughter's, a far cry from when Danita first went missing.
There wasn't much out there, like if somebody went missing, you had to go look for them yourself because they're adults. That's what I was told. She's out there somewhere. They said you'll find her.
Cassidy Big Eagle, Danita's daughter, was only 4 years old when her mother went missing and has spent her whole life wondering what happened. She sees the rising coverage of the murdered or missing as a positive.
I kind of feel good when I see these creators making awareness videos, and it makes me feel even better when I'm looking at someone posting about awareness and I see that they posted my mom, so I know she's not forgotten.
Right now, the Silent Jingle project is 90% done. It will officially be unveiled May 24th in Prince Edward Island, with the hope of continuing to bring attention to and keeping conversations going on this issue.
And we're calling it a living art piece. This is where you can be curious. You can ask, what do those jingles mean? Why is it red? Why are you doing this? What does it represent? And then that's where we can say, yes, it's because of this, 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 this.
National Red Dress Day is set for May 5th.
And if you are affected by these stories, supports are always available 24/7 through the MMIWG support line. That number is 1-844-413-6649. The Interlake Reserves Tribal Council, which consists of 6 First Nations in Manitoba, has declared a state of emergency as wildfires continue to threaten 3 First Nations. The IRTC says homes have already been lost to flames in Peguis First Nation and in Fairford. The state of emergency affects Penamutang First Nation, Kanunjestagon First Nation, and Peguis, the largest First Nation in the province. Peguis First Nation declared the state of emergency on Sunday afternoon after high winds and extreme heat and dry conditions only added fuel to the fire. Hundreds of people have been evacuated. An emergency command center has been set up at the Hilton Winnipeg Airport suites to facilitate coordination between local, provincial, and federal agencies. Ground crews and aerial support are actively combating the fires. Residents in high-risk areas are advised to evacuate immediately. In a statement, IRTC Chairman Chief Cornell McLean says the situation is critical and requires immediate action and support. Meanwhile, dry conditions made it difficult for a number of other First Nations across the prairies over the weekend. Opaskwayak Cree Nation in Manitoba evacuated the Big Eddy and Carrot River areas over the weekend. They are home now but are on high alert and are advised to seek shelter at the Veterans Hall if necessary. The Bracken Dam area remains evacuated. Dozens of people in James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan were evacuated to Melfort on Saturday. 4 homes were lost to fires there. Fire crews say high winds fanned the flames, but they were unable to save several other properties. There were some scary moments for residents of a house on the Cowessess First Nation when it became surrounded by a huge bushfire. And fire crews were also fighting fires in Frog Lake First Nation in Alberta, about 200 kilometers northeast of Edmonton. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have more news coming up after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Victoria Park in Regina, Saskatchewan was busy Saturday morning as people gathered to honor Indigenous veterans through a new statue. In recognition of Indigenous veterans who served in the Canadian and U.S. forces going back to World War I, a monument was unveiled. Organized by the committee members, the monument aims to pay respects to Indigenous soldiers who faced injustices when returning home, while honoring the critical role veterans played in Canada's war efforts.
We wanted to make sure that the citizens of Regina and Saskatchewan fully understand that the Indigenous veterans that fought in the wars, even though by treaty we're not required to do so, fought with courage and skill and honor.
And it's also important to note that that Veterans Memorial statue was replaced by the previous John A. Macdonald statue. Now an update on a developing story out of Haida, Gwaii, where a group of people have been shunned following a murder of a community member. First Nation leaders say the reaction speaks to the rage people are feeling about the toxic drug crisis. CTV's Anna McMillan has more.
People are hurling rocks at a home on the remote archipelago of Haida, Gwaii, reportedly fueled by frustration and pain over BC's drug crisis and the loss of a community member.
We've been told that a house has been demolished in Skidegate that was believed to be occupied by people allegedly selling drugs or dealing in drugs.
Facebook posts indicate the demoed homes are tied to the family of Tyson Young, who was charged with second-degree murder following the death of Luke Pearson. RCMP say Pearson died last week after he was hit by a vehicle.
The violence that happened in Skidegate on Haida, Gwaii really broke the camel's back, so to speak, and has forced a lot of First Nations people to try and address and try and understand the drug crisis.
Young's family has been shunned, and after leaving Haida, Gwaii, police say they were met by protesters. No! It's not uncommon for Indigenous communities to order people to leave their reserves for dealing drugs.
I don't get a notice of every single one, but I'm aware personally of 3 within the past year.
A UVic law professor says it's an assertion of Indigenous sovereignty.
This also comes at a time when many Indigenous communities, hand in hand, are wanting to assert or their Indigenous legal orders, sometimes even in objection to Canadian legal jurisdiction.
He says it's possible people could be prosecuted for demolishing these homes or for following Young's family and preventing them from stopping to eat and refuel. RCMP say that bordered on criminal harassment, though charges weren't laid.
The members of the Haida Gwaii community who are actually doing this are going to say, well, we're acting according to our own laws, so we're going to we're going to defend ourselves as best we can.
The First Nations Leadership Council has written to the Skidegate Band Council offering its support.
We will, if they request, arrange meetings for them with government.
Anna McMillan, CTV News, Victoria.
And now here is our results from our weekly web poll questions from our website, aptnnews.ca. Last week we asked, do you think your interests would be better represented if we elected prime ministers independently from members of parliament? And you said no with 41% of the vote, 33% said yes, and the rest were unsure at 26%. Next we asked, are you happy with the results of the federal election? 64% had said yes, 31% said no, and 5% said I don't care. And lastly, we asked, do police owe the families of Tyendinaga an apology after their botched investigation? This was a follow-up to APTN Investigates Kenneth Jackson's Secrets of the Bay Part 4. An overwhelming 82% had said yes, 11% said they were unsure, and 7% said no. Thanks to everyone who took the time to add your say. Stay tuned to our aptnnews.ca for our next set of questions. We have Métis singer-songwriter Amanda Rheaume up next. Stay with us. Starting on the East St. John's 12, Charlottetown 9. 1 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Cartwright 0. Saguenay 3, Quebec City 13. 14 in Toronto, Sault Ste. Marie, sunny and 11. Big Trout Lake 23, Sioux Lookout 18. -8 in Churchill, Thompson 8. 20 in Gimli, Princess Harbor 9. 16 in Estevan, North Battleford 10. La Ronge 10, Stony Rapids 0. 24 in Peace River, Fort McMurray 13. 17 in Medicine Hat, Red Deer 16. Vancouver 20, Tofino rain and 14. 16 in Fort Nelson, Smithers rain and 12. 12 in Whitehorse, Mayo 13. 9 in Fort Simpson, Fort Liard 19. Fort McPherson -2, Colville Lake -7. Baker Lake -6, Chesterfield -8. And Clyde River -8, Aglulik -10. Welcome back. Métis singer-songwriter Amanda Rheaume, whose new album, The Truth We Hold, is out now. She is currently on the road to promote it with stops across Canada and even heading to Japan in the summertime. She made a recent stop in Winnipeg and sat down with our Dennis Ward to speak more about it.
Amanda, thanks so much for being with us here in studio. Just looking to talk a little bit about your new album, The Truth We Hold.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This whole record is basically a Métis songbook. All of the songs are written about either stories from the past about Métis people or experiences or historical events or current things that are happening, or and also for the future generations, those on their way here. And it's really just meant to lift up my community and some stories that I think not a lot of people have ever heard.
Super cool. Well, your latest music video for the song Unforgettable also features a lineup of notable Métis citizens, some of them from right here. What was the filming like and the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, so the song Unforgettable, it's, Métis people were called the Forgotten People. Maybe some people still refer to Métis people as the Forgotten People, but that really comes from the provincial, federal government kind of like passing Métis people back and forth and not wanting to be responsible for fulfilling the promises that were made. So I wrote this song called Unforgettable to celebrate Métis people and Michif people, half-breed folks. But the video, I really wanted to get as many friends as I could in different locations across the homeland. So here in Treaty 1, also in Edmonton, and there were some folks in Toronto. And I just wanted to show as many faces as possible, different people singing these lyrics that are meant to kind of inspire Métis youth or Métis people to remind them that they matter and they exist and they belong.
Yeah, super cool video. Kind of reminds me of an old Michael Jackson
I know,
video.
except for they don't turn into each other, so that was the difference. But I definitely, that and like a little bit of Alanis Morissette's, one of her Head Over Feet, she did a video that's really up close like that.
Well, MJ's budget's probably a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Totally.
Not forgotten though, this time around with the King Charles III Coronation Medals, which you were a recent recipient of. Can you tell us what that meant for you?
Yeah, so it was an honor to be, nominated by my community. That really is the part that meant the most to me. I mean, I've been doing work in the community for a long, long time and trying to build things to uplift and amplify Indigenous voices like Ishkare Records and the Indigenous Music Summit. But my grandpa received the Queen Jubilee Medal when he turned 80. So it really felt special to me because he was recognized in the same way, years ago now. He was a Métis politician, and so that part felt really, really nice. It's always nice to be recognized for community work.
And good work you do over there at Ishkare as well. We just had Sebastian Gaskin here for Face to Face a couple weeks ago.
Cool.
So you're heading east, taking the new songs, the new album on the road. Can you tell us where you're heading and who's playing with you?
Yeah, so we're going to be playing Ottawa on May 8th, the National Arts Centre, and these are all with the full band, and I'll be traveling with Métis fiddler Alyssa Delbert-Sawchuk. She actually was born here in Treaty 1, and we'll have the full band with us, and then we're also playing in Toronto on May 21st, and Sault Ste. Marie on May 24th. Those are kind of the most shows that are coming up the soonest.
You've been around the industry for a little while now, and like you say, helping out the good work that you are doing with Ishkare as well. Any advice for young Métis artists or Indigenous artists out there looking to make a positive impact?
Yeah, I think just like what I wish I would have maybe done a little bit more of is just trust myself a little more. When you're entering into the music industry, it can be pretty daunting, especially things are changing so fast. So just know that, I've been doing it for 20 years and I'm still learning things, and that feeling is really normal, and to just keep going, But I think also, what we do at the International Indigenous Music Summit is really try to connect Indigenous artists with each other, with mentors, with industry, and that's a really nice place to start if it's possible.
Awesome stuff, Amanda. Congrats on the new album, and good luck out there on the road.
Merci, miigwech.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Monday. We're back again in a few hours for your evening newscast, and we'll have continued coverage of Red Dress Day, including the announcement in Ottawa. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech, masicho kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.